All right, this is idiotic, and I don't know why I'm even bothering with this crap today. I spent about an hour fighting with my camera to get it working, right? And I couldn't get it working. So then I set up my webcam, a crappy built-in stupid Macintosh webcam that's not great, and I recorded a video, about a half hour long. Wasn't great, but I got through it. Except for that didn't record. So this is an hour and a half in. I'm trying my damnedest to get this stupid recording video out to y'all. We're going to give it the one last stupid college try. I'm not in college. I'm very old. It's September 21st, 2022. This is a Cranky comic book review, and god damn it, am I cranky now. Because holy shit. Anyways, we're starting with the worst, and this stupid camera. It's stupid everything. All right. Yeah, it all feels like softcore porn, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm just very frustrated today. Worst to best, there are no rules. Everything's chaos. I'll try and get better next week, but no goddamn promises. Ozzy the Barb #1, Scout Comics. I had a long thing first time around, and we're going to try and get into it again. I don't want to dish on indie creators creating comics too much because I want indie comic creators to create comics because I think it's great for comics. That's it. I did not like this book. It was written by Pat Shand, art by r.l.stine, Burton, and coloring by Jim Campbell. The story is just not very clear. It starts with a framing device that doesn't get returned to at all. So maybe it'll get turned to at the end of the volume. But it starts with a framing device. Then it tells a fairly straightforward part of the story. And then the second half of the book, I hit my stupid mic, is wordless. And the problem with all that is it feels very disjointed. And then that last half of the book is very hard to follow. In order to tell a wordless comic, you need people pretty much at the top of their game in order to make it work. Like the G.I. Joe silent issue, that's a good example of it. The Step by Bloody Step is an okay example of it. There's some muddy panels in that book that don't work. And this book, it is just unclear as to what in the goddamn hell is going on. And that is not great. It needs dialogue, or it needs some way to guide the reader. And I don't think that r.l.stine Burton does a great job in the art telling the story wordlessly. Now, it may not be all on them. Pat Shand might have something to do with it, and it could have been the direction given to the artist. But whatever it is, I don't really know what the hell's going on in this book. I don't really care, and I'm not going to read anymore. I mean, it's $5, and I know Scout Comics, the way they tend to work is that the artists have to put up the money up front, or the artists and the writers, whatever. They have to fund the books, and then from there, they make it. And so, I wish them the best of luck on their journey, and, I respect the process, and I respect the fact that they put a lot into this, but I really didn't care for this book at all. At all. I mean, I tried to go back a few times and, try and figure out what the hell's going on, and I just couldn't get it. Next, we have Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor #4. I loved this series when it first came out. I did. I thought issue #1 was fantastic, and it's been a step down every single issue until this nonsense. I loved it at first. I hated this issue. I think it either had to fill an artist or something, but the art just didn't feel the same to me as the past, and I didn't do any research. I've been too busy fighting my stupid camera and crap all damn day, and reading comics to look into it. But, it also, felt, for a lot of times, colored like it was the 90s image book, and I don't mean that in a good way. And the story, pretty much every 2 pages or every page just jumps from one setting to the next, to a different character to the next. And that disjointedness is not helping this. 4 issues in, and there's still not much of a cohesive story here. There's nuggets that are in place, and you learn who the big bad is. I don't care anymore. And there's only 1 issue left of this, I'm pretty sure. I think it's, part 4 or 5. It suffers in a few ways. It's got the crappy Marvel cover that's just god-awful. The paper quality is still a goddamn hot mess. They have not fixed any of that shit. It still drives me nuts. And that you're paying $4 for this hunk of crap book when every other publisher manages to get much better paper stock out than this. It's a slap in the face to comic fans. And then the story has gotten less and less and less interesting as the time goes on, and the art has gotten worse. You put that all together, and I'm not finishing this. I just do not give a shit. I don't think there's enough interest here for me to really care. And I know there's not going to be anything with any big ramifications in this because of the nature of the story. So if you love Thor and you really, really, really need to have every stupid Thor book ever written, maybe get it. But otherwise, holy crap, skip it because it is not good. All right. Next. r.l.stine, and I still don't remember the name of this book because it still doesn't stick with me because it's not that memorable. Oh yeah, hang on. What the fuck is this stupid thing called? Oh, God damn it. Stuff of Nightmares. I should have just bought the A cover and saved $1, but I thought it would be clever and get the blind embossed one. The title's written here. You just can't read it. All right. If you love schlocky B-movie horror grade stuff, you might get something out of this. If not, skip it. There's not enough here to really warrant buying. I mean, unless you really are specking on like the writer of Goosebumps, suddenly becoming a great grown-up comic writer and writing terrific horror stories, and this is just gonna be a bad start, then maybe. But it's kind of a bad start. It's very, very predictable, and it's very play it by the numbers safe. There's not even a lot of visual gore in here. There's a little bit, but it's not like grown-up horror. It's not like pre-code, like where you get at least some cool gross out stuff. The grossest, the most visually disturbing thing is this cover. And half of this cover pretty much has nothing to do with the book. I'm not going to tell you which half, but whatever. This is the best part about the book, is the cover. The rest of this, it is such a predictable nonsense. And it's such a like play it by, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then this will probably happen. I predict this entire damn thing from start to finish. And that is not necessarily always awful. There's something comforting about some of those old horror stories, but this feels very dated and not edgy enough to really warrant reading at all. So I'd say, again, skip it unless you really are having a hard time finding any kind of horror out there and you want something to, like, I don't know, trip that little trigger. All right, next. Rogues Gallery, issue number 3. I had a long thing I said the first time around. It was really witty. You should like rewind the video that doesn't exist, and I'll do my best to replicate it. I hated issue number 1 in this book. I really didn't like it. I loved issue number 2, and this issue somewhere in the middle. It's been a very up and down book for me. I probably will get the next issue just because I'm hoping it's the end of it all, and I really kind of do want to see how it ends. But this, I was... Issue number 2 really like raised my hopes up, and I was like, "Oh my god, actually, this might be something cool and interesting." And this doesn't let them down entirely, but it doesn't do it any favors. The art feels rushed in this issue. The point of view shifts a little bit in this one as well. There's a sort of weird backstory-ish kind of like hinting reveal here that I don't give a crap about, and I don't think adds anything to the main story. And then there's a twist at the end where you're like, well, okay, I guess that's a little clever, but like it's just seems clever for clever's sake. And that clever for clever's sake doesn't feel necessary to telling the story either. So it's not bad, but it's not to the heights of the last issue. Maybe trade weight this one, maybe skip it. I don't know. I'm torn on this one. It's okay, I guess. I mean, it's fine, but yeah. I don't know. It's a weird one for me. And then this one. War of the... hang on. DCeased, War of the Undead Gods. War for Kurigar. I don't know. Whatever. I hate the goddamn DC titles. I always have, and I always goddamn will. Number 2 of 8. This would be higher if the art was better. I hate Trevor Hursane's art on this for the most part. There's a few pages I like. And I'm not going to show you all of them because there's some spoilery stuff in there. But a lot of this I really, really didn't like. It felt stiff. It didn't feel like an accurate portrayal of some of these characters. Like, that's apparently Wonder. I think that's Big Barda, right? That's Big Barda. It's not a great Big Barda. I don't know. The art is not fantastic. It reminds me of a crappy, stiff version of Travis Charest from back in the day. And the coloring feels off. And then there's color. I don't know who to blame for this, but there's coloring on some of the lettering, which makes it hard to read, especially if you have any kind of color blindness or you're sensitive to any of this stuff. That's just unnecessary. And just goddamn do lettering right. And just don't make me talk about it. So it's either Rain Bernard, or Landy Landing's part of Rain Bernard. I don't know who the hell to blame for that one, but it bugs me. Tom Taylor's telling an interesting, fun enough-ish story. It's not fantastic. The first half of this is pretty but then there are some cool moments at the end where you're like, yeah, all right, that was kind of neat. That was kind of badass. Ooh, that has some fun, potentially be fun. And that's the Tom Taylor kind of method. He'll like tell these Elseworld stories that don't have any real world implications, and then he'll get to like play around with things and actually do something cool. It doesn't always pay off, and this might not pay off, but the cool things in here were pretty cool. But the lows were also pretty low, so it's fine. Plus, I just really the art bugged the hell out of me, and it would be higher on this list really by probably 2 or 3 spots, but I just really didn't like the art, and I don't remember if it's the same artist as last issue. I'm not gonna go look because it's too busy fighting with my fucking camera, people. All right, next, Wynd, The Throne in the Sky, issue number 2. This is officially going to my trade wait pile as well. You ever read a story and then you like suddenly realize you're like, oh, okay, I know what the author's doing, and that can be good or it can be bad. In this case, I don't think it's great. I'm like, oh, we're doing the struggling hero bit. The hero doesn't want to be a hero, and that's not always a bad thing. You can always, like sometimes you know the tropes and you know the methods of storytelling and you know what's going on, and it still can be a fun ride. And this has been a fun enough ride. I like the first volume of Wynd. I like the last issue a lot, but this issue, the first half is pretty much another political info dump, and then the last half is just a sad hero that doesn't want to be a hero. And it'll read better in trade, I think. I think Tynion tends to read better in trade a lot of the time because his pacing is just glacially slow in a lot of ways, and this is another glacially slow book as far as that goes. Not much happens in this issue, really, and that's not always a bad thing. Like, you can have political intrigue, and you can have like a show where not much, or book where not a ton happens, and it can be fun. Now, to relate it to his show, like the new Game of Thrones, the Blood of the Dragon, or Dragon of the, that thingy. That's interesting. Not a ton always happens in each episode in that case, but there's enough interest, and the way that the politics play out, you're like, oh yeah, there's some chess being played, but you don't know how it's going to play out. It's not chess. This is like write a book describing chess instead of actually playing chess. And that's not as interesting to me. And I don't know. I will read it. I will still read it because I like the world well enough. And I like the main character Wynd. I like the supporting cast. But I'm just going to wait till it's said and done. There's been a lot of other young adult fantasy I think has been better than this. And I'm looking forward to hopefully this reaching those ranks. Hopefully. But right now, it's kind of, this issue is just middle of the pack, and it's enough where I'm like, I'll just wait. And all right, next, we have Vanish number 1. You know, when you think authors are too damn clever for their own good, or they think they're too clever for their own good, or they think they're more clever than the audience? That's just Donny Cates all the time. And that's this book, too. Like, I'm pretty sure, sorry about that, I'm trying to figure out a way that my laptop's overheating now, because of course it is. I'm trying to figure out whether or not this is going to be good, and I don't know the answer to that. I think what he does is he like has this notebook where he writes down all his ideas, and he's like, oh my god, that's going to be clever. I have a clever idea. I'm going to write a clever little tidbit, and then when I'm said and done, make that clever thing and flesh it out into a story. And like, it's just, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. Like the Hulk, he's like, I have a clever idea for the Hulk, and it's god awful. And this might be good, but also you can just tell it's like, yeah, it's a clever idea. It's like, yeah, that's a neat idea. And it's not necessarily wrong, but it could go either way. It's an interesting enough setup. The character designs and everything feel very dated to me. Like, this feels like it's from the Darkness or some other like 90s or 2000s book. It doesn't feel very 2022 to me. Stegman's art, though, on them for the most part is solid, and it's an okay start. It could, yeah, I don't know. It's middle of the road. It's Cates. Take it for what it's worth. I'm sure you probably already have it because it's a spec book and everyone specs on this crap. So, all right, we got 3 left, and so I'm going to try and do this before my battery dies and everything over just heats and I just throw everything against the wall. So, all right. We have, what else is, anyways, hang on 1 second. I'm going to quit a program that should help in theory. All right, so we have Barbaric, Axe to Grind, number 2. Barbaric's just been fun. It's Michael Marici and Gooden, and Mike, Leroy, Freddie Gooden. I can't think of the artist's name. When they're together, they're great. Okay, so it's Michael Marici and Nathan Gooden. I was way off. And then coloring by other person whose name I didn't read, Rodison Duke. Yeah, it all works pretty well. The palette is pretty monochromatic in a lot of ways, but Gooden's art, Jesus Christ, Gooden's art is pretty solid and always has been. And Marici's art writing, they pair well together. This book's not going to change the world. Once you've learned the gimmick of Barbaric, and if you've not read any of it, I don't want to spoil that for you. Start and find the first volume. You can probably get it in trade pretty cheaply, and just read there. if you just want an escapist, good fantasy story and a fun time that's just solidly constructed, get Barbaric. And then there's a one-shot that you can probably skip, and then start reading Volume 2. It's a hard one to really review because it's not going to change the world, and it's not like revelatory comics. But if you want something to like get you out of the crappy day you're having when your webcam hasn't worked and you just want to throw things against the wall, you can do worse than Barbaric. It's a solid book, so I dig it. All right, we have 2 left. We have Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain number 4. This is book number, my second favorite book of the week. Zdarsky here is telling a twofold kind of story. The one is like a creator's rights thing where he's like pretty much slamming DC and Marvel for how they treated creators in the past. It's very thinly veiled, and it's not like there's probably a reason Image is making this book instead of on like one of the big 2. And then there's also a family story, and like he's meshed these 2 together because the story is about a family whose creator, like the patriarch of the family, the father of the family, created the world's most famous hero and then was treated like crap by the company. So it could be Marvel, it could be DC. I mean, you think Kirby, you think just creators of Superman, whose names are escaping me because it's been a stupidly annoying day, and stuff like that, and how they were living in poverty because like DC fucked them over. And Marvel fucked Kirby over, or just any of the old creators that didn't really get their due. And so that like leads to like not leads to, but that you put that on top of family drama, and this family where you think the one main character is going to be the success, but he turns out to be one of the more fucked up characters, and you think the fuck up's like the character that was initially presented as a fuck up is suddenly one of the like more stable rocks of the family, and it gets kind of interesting. And he's having fun playing around with this. The art is not fantastically dynamic, but what Chip can do very well and does do is have art that serves the story. Like, it's not action-packed, and it's not even, like, I mean, it's competent. He's got a competent sense of storytelling. And like, it's interesting enough to keep you hooked. So, it's not going to probably win any artistic awards, and it probably might not even win any writing awards. But it's a solid, again, another solid book. And I've said solid like 4 times in the past 2 minutes, and I apologize. But I like what he's doing. It's an engaging tale. If you thought if my description sounds at all engaging to you, you might want to pick it up. That said, you could probably also trade weight this one because it's not a high like spec book or by any means, and it probably won't get turned into anything. Although it might be an interesting enough story if it were translated into another medium. But if you just want to read a good comic that's about comics, for comics, and dealing with comics, and lots of comics in the last 2 sentences as well, Public Domain is pretty good. So, there you go. And last, and yeah, okay. So, some other YouTubers and reviewers get access to books earlier than I do. I don't get my books until Wednesday. And so, these people that have a jump on me, and I can review books earlier than I do, I sometimes watch reviews. And I'm like, okay, I should probably come up with a different, best book of the week if I'm going to do that, because I don't want to sound like a copycat. But then I'm like, well, I kind of agree. This book is the best book of the week, so I don't want to like not be true and not say, hey, some other book's better when this is by far the best book of the week. So there you have it. We have Ice Cream Man number, whatever the hell number this is. Doesn't matter. The newest issue of Ice Cream Man. What issue? I don't even know what issue this is, but it's the best book of the week. I love the MC Escher-esque cover. Ice Cream Man number 32. And I like W. Maxwell Prince is really like got something great going on with his writing here. And then you part of with Martin Morazzo's cover. Martin Morazzo's art. It's another artist whose art serves the story very well. And Ice Cream Man's an anthology series where sometimes it's very horrific and sometimes it's not. This is not one of the more horrific issues. This issue is pretty much an essay on addiction and on a struggling person trying to free themselves from the demon of addiction. There are a few little ice creamisms thrown in here that I don't necessarily think are super necessary to the story. I think that you could have told it without it, but I don't think that Prince put it in because it's like, well, it is an Ice Cream Man book. And then, yeah. It's a really nice, surprisingly heartfelt, poignant story with a little bit of hope. And depending upon whether or not you've read any previous issues of Ice Cream Man, an ending that's open to interpretation. Uh, if you have read them, you might interpret the ending one way. If not, you probably will interpret it a different way. So it's up to you on that one. And I think Prince, it has been telling some more horrific stories a while back, but these last couple issues of Ice Cream Man, I think he's like ventured away from that and are just telling more like human tales without feeling the need to like wrap them in the veil of horror. And I'm really liking that. It's you can pick up any issue of Ice Cream Man and it's gonna be a solid issue. But I do think this is one of the best ones that's come out in a while. And it is my favorite book of the week. If you've ever known anyone that struggled with addiction, or if you have struggled with addiction yourself, I have a feeling this is going to ring true to you. It might be a little too close to home in some ways, but yeah, it's a good book. It's like the best book of this week by a hot mile. Like there's some really bad books. There were a lot of middle of the road books, and there were a lot of books that were hampered by bad art. But yeah, the Ice Cream Man 32, it's the best one, and it's not even close. So there you go. That's what I thought this week. And dear God, this is better recorded this time, because if not, I give up. Don't be a dick, even if you're fighting with your computer, even if everything about one day is driving you a little bit nuts, and you're just super annoyed with everything. So, all right. I'll see you.